I would like to finish this protectionism part, although kind of I will return to this, mention this again from a different perspective, but this kind of mainstream protectionism view with interesting development that happened in the 21st century, starting with actually several movements in the world. And maybe the most interesting case is Donald Trump. And again, interesting aspect of Donald Trump's movement and many of the movements like this were actually, they were not left-wing movements but right-wing movements, but they claim that well, different countries, China is usually at the top of the list, but in many cases other countries are included to the list. Mexico by Donald Trump, for example, was included. In some cases, India is included. Are blamed of actually protecting their industries so that their industries will become developed and more advantageous against the industries of the countries like United States or European countries, and as a result they become dominant. They are able to sell their goods to the developed countries, and the industrial base of the developed countries is eroded as a result. That's the argument. In other words, if a country becomes dominant enough in critical sectors, the companies operating in your country in those critical sectors, even if at one point they might be the dominant companies in the world, since the companies in a different country become so much more competitive than them, they might basically have no choice but scale down or even close. As a result, according to Donald Trump and many other politicians and economists, basically, some critical sectors were actually dying out in the United States and in other developed countries. So the countries need to protect those sectors. So that's an idea actually that was developed also, for example, by Danny Rodrik and other economists like him. And basically, the idea is the state should be in role of supporting the sectors, the companies operating different sectors. State should not be bystander. State should not left everything to the market, because in the end, advantage in certain sectors, advantage in developing the companies in your country will benefit all. If you are able to produce relatively high-priced products with high productivity in the country, then the workers will benefit, companies will benefit also. But in order to do that, those companies should be promoted, benefited, and basically promoted in the countries. And that view got both academic support and political support, although, in my opinion, in the mainstream, at least, even though bits and pieces of some arguments are hanging out there, they still did not form a concrete, theory or view, in my opinion. But ideas are there. And Danny Rodrik is certainly one of the most interesting economists. One of the economists who expresses those ideas. And you can find this book also within the readings. Just a small small data on the world trade volume, taking 2005 as a starting point. Actually, should continue to look at that, but you can see starting with 2014, there is a contraction in the global trade. These are the green ones are developing countries. Developing countries are mostly higher than the developed countries, although the distance is decreasing. So developed countries are getting more advantage at that time. Actually, early 2000, starting from 2005 to all the way to 2014 has been advantageous for developing countries. But starting with 2014, their advantage started to narrow down. Although the advantage might be continuing when you look to the services. Interestingly, of course, we are not looking actual volume. Probably the value of the services that are traded are much less than the goods. But you can see that the amount of services traded has also increased, and there, maybe even after 2014, the developing countries have advantage basically. Those services might be things like healthcare services. I mean, believe it or not, I mean there are healthcare tourism. People from developed countries go to developing countries because the prices are lower there. There might be even things like financial services or education you take from online, or even by going to a foreign country. So all of those services are services traded between the countries. So I have been, for example, a foreign student in my master and PhD years in the United States, and if you are not TLC student, you are also kind of, in a way, I mean, buying education from a foreign country, basically. Let's go down. So, in this slide, we basically see the three basic steps which lead to development of the view of World System School. The first one is actually very early argument, which was expressed in the turn of the 20th century, and the idea is actually within capitalist system, companies continuously within the same country in order to be competitive in that country, they need to increase scale of production so that they can decrease the costs by taking the advantage of producing more. But by doing that, they also produce more than what is demanded in that country, and as a result, they need to find new markets to sell their products. So there are different ways to find those new markets. One of them is invading the markets of other countries. By doing that, actually, they destroy the companies that are producing industrial products in those countries. In return, they are able to use the inputs in those countries basically themselves, and they become the ones that are selling the industrial products. I mean, specific product. Of course, each company is doing this for a specific market, like car market, for example, in that country. So, according to this capitalism, I mean the companies in a country always aim to invade the markets in other countries and destroy them. Companies existing in that country, building the industrial base of the country. After 1945, kind of in parallel with these views, a specific type of school was developed, which was called dependency school. It was more mild. Now the image that this doesn't exist, but it states that different countries are actually have specialized in taken different roles in the world economic system. How those roles distributed are relatively more vague, but once those roles are distributed, certain roles like providing again agricultural goods, agricultural products, are making the country stay undeveloped because well, those products are highly volatile. I mean, their prices changes too much, and also the condition, their productivity depends on too much factors that are not in control of the company. So the companies that are operating in these sectors don't invest that much, and also when they get profits, they invest those profits to the foreign countries, which might be contested. I mean, maybe it's not the case. I mean, those companies might be also doing some investments, but that's the argument. So, as a result, those countries that specialize in production of those particular products or in those particular sectors, they stay underdeveloped. So basically, development level of any country will depend on the role it takes in the world economic system. Same idea also exists in the world system theory, which divides kind of which argues that world capitalist system basically gives different roles to countries. Periphery is the place where usually products produced have low value and usually they are industrial inputs. Semi-periphery produce relatively more high value products, but those products are not critical ones. And the core is producing the products that are more critical basically and high value adding products, and this idea, this different value levels created by different countries make some of countries relatively more developed and rich and some countries more poor, and pretty much I mean in order to challenge your position you should challenge your role in the world system. You should basically aim to produce high value creating products as a country and don't satisfy with the type of products your country is creating. Well, now we can go to an interesting new aspect of the world economy today, which is pretty much connected to this last video actually. It's so popular actually in world trade. It is aspect that is studied a lot. It's called value chains, global value chains. The main idea is coming from business actually. In business, typical business, there are different departments. Like for example, some of them are doing logistics, operation logistics, services, market sales. Well, you produce something, some of them manage inputs, some of them are actually doing the advertisements, and there are some support departments which are actually regulating, meeting the needs of your workers, for example, or developing technology, or looking for the building itself where your business is operating. And each of these departments are actually producing part of the value created by your company. And in some cases also, I mean, certain values created by these departments might also be given to other companies, and in that case, I mean, that company will replace certain value creating department in all different companies, and now I mean that function of the company's services within the company should be calculated in more detail both by the company that is providing these services and the company that is buying these services to some extent. So this is very, very rough summary of the way this concept is used in business. Now we will see how it is used in the